Well, hey there everyone, I'm meteorologist Jennifer Lambers with a look at the tropics, and we are continuing to track Hurricane Francine at this time. And so I just wanted to double check that the sound is going okay here. And so in case you're joining us so far to begin for this morning, just let me know. Let me know where you're viewing from. Let me know where you're watching. And if you're going to be experiencing any of these impacts of Hurricane Francine, because more of these impacts are going to be spanning all across the Gulf Coast. But let's start off with a live view down at Orange Beach right now here. It is looking gray. It is looking gloomy out there. So really not the best conditions out there to start off for this morning. It's just, or really this afternoon, we're 1 o'clock right now. It's been a busy day here. And so again, it's gray, it's gloomy, and we're noticing more of that rough surf down at our local beaches. In case you're visiting us, even in case you're a local, just a reminder, it is double red flags out there. Our Gulf Coast beaches, the water is closed because of that rough surf. And just a reminder too, for the folks that haven't quite experienced any of this, the only exception there is going to be our Florida beaches, where they sometimes allow some of those surfers. So don't be surprised, don't be caught off guard in case you do see any of those at our Florida beaches, just because if they do have that device tethered to them, then they are allowed into the water. So this is typically when we see surfers get out there. But regardless, it is rough, it is life-threatening surf out there. Please stay out of the water. Also, I did see on Dauphin Island's Facebook earlier that to make sure that their flags are okay, they have taken them down, but it is double red flags at the beaches there. So please stay out of the water. Even if you don't see a flag, don't be getting in it. So going ahead and just saying hello to everyone that's watching so far. Charles from Gaucher, Ashley from Irvington, and Lainey from Theodore. So just checking in on what those latest advisories have looked like. Beginning at 10 a.m., we've been getting those hourly updates from the National Hurricane Center. Once these systems move closer to land, that's when we start to get more of these hourly updates. And so that's what's been happening. We got one at 10, 11, noon, and now we are getting our 1 p.m. advisory update. And there's a few changes, but really nothing major. If you haven't been checking in with us lately, then this might look a little different. Hurricane Francine continues to churn just off the coast of Louisiana. Those sustained winds are staying the same at 90 miles per hour, but the movement, it's picked up speed, which is a good sight to see, moving northeast at 16 miles per hour and still holding on to that Category 1 hurricane strength at this time. So again, no changes to the speed, to the category of Hurricane Francine. A good change is going to be that speed moving faster. It was at 13 miles per hour just an hour ago, now 16 miles per hour. And taking a look at the forecasted path for the system, if you missed that 10 a.m. advisory update, that was the big one that actually knocked down the category, the projected category for landfall. The National Hurricane Center was still calling for that Category 2 hurricane at that 7 a.m. advisory update, and they have since knocked it back down to be that Category 1 hurricane at landfall, sustained winds 90 miles per hour. A few factors that are playing into this. Right now, Francine is having to battle just some of that wind shear out there. Also, forecast models and what Chief Meteorologist Jason Smith was talking about yesterday is that it is expected to encounter some dry air once it gets closer towards that Louisiana coastline, and that's going to keep it from strengthening even more. And so that's why we are leaning more towards that Category 1 hurricane at landfall, heading later on into this afternoon and this evening along the Louisiana coastline. So really no questions about where it's going to be making that landfall approach. A lot of steering factors there, and especially now that it's coming just within the next few hours heading into this afternoon and this evening. And then also another big update for anyone that's located in Jackson County, you might have just gotten this alert as that a tornado watch was issued for the Louisiana coastline further towards the west of us. So Mobile, Baldwin counties, the Florida Panhandle, Washington, Clark, Monroe, Connecticut, and Escambia, Alabama, George, Greene counties, you are not included in it. It's only going to be Jackson County, Mississippi, coastal Mississippi, and also that southeastern portion in the coastline of Louisiana that are included in this tornado watch until 11 p.m. for this evening. In case you've been watching any of our coverage here on Fox 10, you're tuning in on air, then you're likely seeing that bug and that crawl at the bottom, and that's showing that tornado watch. So again, only certain areas are included in this. For our area, it's really only going to be Jackson County and Mississippi that's included. However, we still have the threat for tornadoes heading later on into this evening, so we could possibly even see some of this grow. We'll continue to monitor that and keep you updated. Now, as far as alerts locally go, we are still included in that tropical storm warning. Now, we did have a change here. It was Greene County, Mississippi earlier that was in that tropical storm watch. That has now changed to a warning. And so in our area, it's Mobile, Baldwin County, Mobile Bay, our coastal waters just offshore, and then also George and Greene counties in Mississippi. Even if you're on, say, the Florida Panhandle, Washington County, Clark County, and you're not included in this, you're still going to be seeing some of those impacts. So just keep that in mind. You guys don't meet that very specific criteria, but we're still going to be seeing those impacts all across the Fox 10 viewing area of more of those winds, that heavy rain, local to our beaches, more of that storm surge and that rough surf and that tornado threat heading into this evening. Now, I just see that I am getting quite a few questions here. I'm going to try and answer more of those at the very end because I may answer some of them, so I don't want to skip over anything of what I have. But talking more about the impacts that we're expecting here locally, again, if you travel further west, you're going to be seeing more of those greater impacts because you're traveling closer towards the center of Francine. And so here locally, Ever is looking at the potential for that tornado risk. And so the big takeaway from this is just have a way to get those alerts, have a way to get those warnings heading into tonight. Charge your devices. Make sure you download the Fox 10 weather app. It's great because it'll track your location and only send you that tornado warning alert if you are in that polygon. So if you're actually in that tornado warning, that's when you'll get that alert. You can live stream our coverage in the palm of your hand. Plus also, if we get put under a tornado watch, you'll get that alert notified to you too. Something to note with that tornado risk, it's an overnight event. Our best chances closer towards midnight, 1 a.m., so it's important to have that way to wake up. The wind risk is going to be more of those tropical storm force winds, 39 to 57 miles per hour. My main takeaway with this, anything that could easily be blown away, bring it inside. Think of the fall and the Halloween decorations. I've already been seeing some of those outdoors. Just make sure you go ahead and bring some of those inside. Me personally, my trash day is tomorrow, so I will not be putting out my trash can tonight. I'm going to wait till tomorrow. If yours is today, just make sure you, as soon as the trash truck comes through, bring them inside. Patio furniture, if you have any of those umbrellas, if you have flags outdoors, even if you have any yard signs that are out there, just make sure you go ahead and bring that inside. You don't want to wake up tomorrow morning and not be there because these tropical storm force winds, our Futurecast models are leaning towards gusts getting over 40, 50 miles per hour. So just make sure you don't lose anything. Also trampolines, please make sure that those are tied down too. And then that surge risk. And that surge risk, although we are starting to see higher chances closer towards the Mississippi coastline, we are still seeing some of that potential here, that storm surge around 2 to 4 feet. And so just make sure that you're being cautious in case you live closer towards our coastline. Something that I've been trying to mention as a Bayway commuter is the causeway. We'll likely see those closures, especially heading into tomorrow morning. We're going to be dealing with high tide in addition to more of that southerly flow. Once Francine continues to push closer towards central Mississippi, it's bringing in all of that Gulf moisture, pushing it toward out of the south. And so do just keep that in mind in case you have to travel across the Bayway. Causeway will likely be closed, so that's going to take all those causeway commuters and put them on the Bayway. So we'll likely see delays heading out the door tomorrow. However, we are starting to get more notice of school closures heading into tomorrow, so that could help the roadways just a little bit. I did just get an update that Mobile County schools are closed tomorrow. If you haven't heard that yet, again, Mobile County schools are now closed for tomorrow. Also, I did just see that Greene County, Mississippi schools are closed for tomorrow. If you have any additional updates, there's been a few coming in just within the past hour now. Feel free to drop those in the comments. Baldwin County schools at last update are still normal heading into tomorrow. So we will have additional updates on fox10tv.com, our Fox 10 weather app, and on air and online if any of that does change. So let's talk more about those winds. I was seeing some of you guys talk about the winds that are just coming in offshore. So I have some of the buoys out there. And so this is going to be Ship Shoal buoy that is showing those sustained winds just near the center of Francine, showing those sustained winds around 60 miles per hour. That Garden Banks one was really getting high earlier I'm going to show the wind gusts here in a minute, but it was showing wind gusts over 90 miles per hour. But even in the wake of Francine, still pretty breezy, 47 miles per hour. And then here's a look at those wind gusts. 70 mile per hour wind gusts closer towards that Ship Shoal. I think it's 241 Louisiana there. And then that Garden Banks is still showing those wind gusts around 55 miles per hour. Looking just south of Mobile County, you can start to see that buoy 42040, quite along there. But the wind gusts 25 miles per hour. So we're already noticing some of those breezy winds beginning to push in closer towards our coastline. But when can we expect more of these winds? So this is going to be the forecasted wind gusts. We're starting off right now. So seeing some of those wind gusts beginning to pick up. Let me know if it's breezy where you are. I've actually yet to step outside since I got here this morning. But noticing more of those wind gusts ramping up later on into the overnight hours. I'm actually going to back this up. There you go. We're showing closer towards around 10 p.m. tonight. More of those wind gusts getting over 40 miles per hour in southern Baldwin County, the Eastern Shore, Fairhope even picking up there, and even seeing Bay Minette become a bit more on the breezy side, Loosedale too. We get closer towards midnight, still some little breaks there, but that's where we're really noticing more of those tropical storm force winds, again over 37, getting into the 40s. And then even higher heading into tonight. Grove Hill, there you go. I was going to say Grove Hill at one point was showing over 50 miles per hour for some of those wind gusts. And so although tomorrow morning we are looking at the potential of possibly seeing less rain to start off for our Thursday, it's still going to be very breezy out there. We won't start to see a lot of this beginning to clear out until we get past lunchtime. That's when you can start to see some of those wind gusts getting back into the teens later on tomorrow evening. Now let's go ahead and time things out on our Futurecast. I might have to drag some of this along too. But starting off for this afternoon, just some light drizzle out there, some moderate rain closer towards our coastal areas, and then continuing further on into today. The main batch of rain bands we're expecting later on tonight. So we get closer towards 3 o'clock, seeing some of those rain bands pushing into southern Mobile County, also closer towards Jackson County, Mississippi. So really our Mississippi county is getting hit first. And there's the more of those rain bands just trying to push into our area here in the Foxton viewing area. But the majority of that coming into play later on tonight. Once we get closer towards 8 o'clock, this is really when Futurecasts are leaning towards us turning into that moderate to heavy, more widespread rainfall. So in case you're having to pick up your kids after school today, you have that evening commute after work, you should be okay. Just take it easy in case you find yourselves in any of those showers or those storms. But then after that, I would just stay at home. There's no reason to be out late heading into this evening. Just enjoy a nice dinner inside, watch a movie with the kids. But then just make sure that you do have a way to get those alerts, stay updated with the forecast, check in with us on the Foxton weather app to see where Francine is, what those impacts are looking like. So it's okay just to stay inside tonight. Again, it's best just to stay off the roadways. But that's going to be the main timing for when we start to see our impacts moving into Mobile, Baldwin counties. Is going to really be after 7 o'clock. We'll start to see some isolated showers, some isolated downpours at some points with some of those cells, but the main bands coming in later on this evening and only continuing overnight. Take a look at that once we get closer towards midnight into 1 and 2 a.m. Really heavy rainfall showing closer towards Pensacola with some of that purple coloration, more of that moving further inland. And if you caught it just about a minute or two ago, I had mentioned is that we could possibly see some of that clearing heading into tomorrow morning. One of the reasons why Francine is not expected to strengthen even further once it gets closer towards that Louisiana coastline is going to be that interaction with the dry air. If that does continue to occur, then we will also possibly see some of those impacts here locally and be more isolated to start off for tomorrow morning. Still, though, we will be experiencing more of those breezy winds out of the south, those tropical storm force winds continuing. We'll still have that surge. And so that's still something to keep in mind despite some of that rain potentially clearing out tomorrow morning, but a much better look as you're stepping out the door to begin for your Thursday. So do keep that in mind. Don't be caught off guard in case we do actually see some of that rain beginning to dissipate early for your Thursday because of some of that dry air could be impacting us. Now we've talked about the wind, we've talked about the rain that we're going to be seeing, but let's talk more about that tornado risk that I had mentioned. And so heading into this evening, we are looking at that tornado risk. This is something that we're used to here on the Gulf Coast. We typically whenever we're on the right side of the system, not the left side, then we get those outer rain bands, and that's normally when we start to introduce some of those isolated tornadoes. Now with these, because it's more of that tropical system, they are short-lived, but also we have short lead time for when we could possibly see some of that rotation developing. That's why it's going to be so important to stay weather aware, have a way to get those alerts, because we could see that tornado warning issue like that, and that's when you need to go ahead and get into shelter or just into your safe space in your home. Just a reminder, bottom floor, in case you don't have any of that, just find a room that's like a bathroom, a pantry, a closet, something that doesn't have exterior walls, and also something without windows. So that'll be the best thing. The center of your home, if you can find one of those small rooms, that'll be the best place for you. Best timing for this, again, overnight hours. That's why it's going to be so important to have that way to wake up. Well, let's go ahead and take a look at this. So this is called the SPC, the Significant Tornado Parameter. A long sentence there. What it does is actually very handy, is it shows us where all of the favorable conditions are for some of that tornado development. It's not saying a tornado is going to happen. It's just saying that the environment is favorable for that. So taking a look, starting off for this afternoon, not quite seeing those favorable conditions. Take a look at New Orleans. New Orleans is underneath that tornado watch heading into today. They're lighting up once we get closer towards 6 o'clock, but then it quickly moves out of there and it moves closer towards our area into southern Mobile, Baldwin counties once we get closer towards 11 p.m., even making its way along the Florida Panhandle. Jackson County seeing some of those favorable conditions, and it lingers. It just continues where our conditions continue to stay favorable closer towards 1 a.m., 2 a.m., 3 a.m., and even into 4 a.m. hours. Hopefully by the 5 and 6 a.m. hours, we start to see some of that rain push out of here, but our best chances to see some of those spin-up tornadoes will be closer towards midnight. So that's why it's going to be important just to stay weather aware heading into tonight, have a way to get those alerts, have a way to wake up. But again, short-lived tornadoes are possible within some of these, along with some of those tornadoes that are just developing offshore and moving further inland. Now here's a look at our local beaches. Again, we were talking about those earlier. It's rough out there. It's gray. It's gloomy. Was seeing quite a few folks earlier this morning, but now they're all clearing out because of the rain showers. If you notice some of those raindrops just in front of the camera, I'm curious if the temperature is out there, mid-70s, east-northeasterly winds around 10 miles per hour. But that rip current risk will continue to stay high today, tomorrow, and Friday. Please stay out of the Gulf waters. Double red flags flying out there. It is illegal to be swimming because you not only put yourself at risk, but if anyone has to rescue you, you put them at risk as well. So do stay out of our Gulf waters. As mentioned earlier, Dauphin Island not flying those flags, but those waters are also closed. And then talking more about the potential storm surge is looking at that 1 to 3 foot range closer towards the Delta, but even some of those areas where you start to see it lighting up with the yellow coloration, that is where we could possibly see that 3 to 6 foot. My concern mainly here is after we start to see Francine push further inland, closer towards central Mississippi, and we see all of those winds out of the south, then that's when we're going to start to see more of that water pushing up Mobile Bay, mixed with the 2 foot high tide at around 6:30 in the morning. So that's why we'll possibly see more of those impacts early tomorrow morning in case you are stepping outside. So do be ready for any of those delays. Check in with meteorologist Matt Barentine early tomorrow on Fox 10 News at 4:30 to 9 a.m. and he will have your update on your traffic conditions. Now I am going to go back here. So for anyone that's just now joining us, again, this is going to be that 1 p.m. advisory update for Hurricane Francine. The sustained winds 90 miles per hour, holding on to that Category 1 hurricane strength, tracking northeast at 16 miles per hour. One of the main changes is that it's moving faster now. It was 13 miles per hour, now it's 16 miles per hour. So that's a good sight to see. If you missed that 10 a.m. advisory update, it is no longer expected to reach that Category 2 hurricane strength, instead expected to be a Category 1 landfall. It's battling shear and potentially some dry air once it moves closer towards Louisiana. Some other things to note about this, the National Hurricane Center is now issuing these advisories every 1 hour. So we will get another update in 40 minutes from now at 2 p.m. So we will have that for you. The location of this is currently 95 miles southwest of Morgan City, Louisiana. And then also for anyone in Jackson County, Mississippi, you might have gotten this alert that a tornado watch has been issued for your location. Now also something to note too It shows our offshore waters, but we're not quite included in that. The reason for this is because this is two different National Weather Service offices. The one in Slidell, Louisiana, covers closer towards Jackson County, Mississippi. However, our National Weather Service, we love you guys, they're located at Mobile Regional Airport, and so we will likely start to see some of our changes updated later on today. And so that's what covers pretty much the Foxton viewing area, except for Jackson County, Mississippi. That's the outlier that is included in that Slidell office out of Louisiana. So just a little reason there on why some of our areas are not included. And so just checking in. On what you guys are asking here. So I will go back to the Futurecast. Thank you guys for anyone that's joining us. Again, just a reminder, we are live streaming on our app, on our Gulf Stream, on Facebook Live, and on YouTube Live. In case you have any questions, I'm checking those on our Facebook Live right now. So I want to talk about the Futurecast a little bit. I had some questions about the center of it approaching closer towards us. This was something that we had figured would happen. Oh, that's too far. And that actually follows right in line with what that cone is looking like, where it's traveling through. Sorry, it jumped on me. There we go. Where it's traveling through central Mississippi. And so that's really where we're going to be seeing the majority of our rain bands. If you notice, the center there is located just on the north side of New Orleans. And so that's why our impacts are going to be felt so greatly here, and why we do have those tropical storm warnings in effect. Because although by that point it's going to be weakening and those hurricane force winds are going to be closer towards Louisiana at landfall, it is expected, Francine is expected to weaken almost immediately as soon as it starts hitting land. And so we'll still be feeling some of those impacts past midnight, more of those rain bands pushing in closer, and those tropical storm conditions here. And so, yeah, the center of the system still expected to track through southern Mississippi. That was something that we expected. If you look at the cone, it still has it right there. I will say that some of those models have continued to lean more towards that center approaching towards Hattiesburg. But our impacts here really don't change much. We're still going to be looking at the exact same conditions regardless of the category that it's at and where exactly that landfall is on Louisiana. We'll still be feeling the same impacts, just being on the right side of this system. So it's important not to get too focused on that. Just know that we're still going to be experiencing more of that heavy rainfall here, those tropical storm force winds, the tornado threat, the rough surf, and also that storm surge impacts as well. And so I think that is all the questions that you guys have for me. But thank you everyone that was checking in with us for this afternoon. Again, we are expecting that next update coming out at 2 p.m. If you do check in with us today on Fox 10 News, we're actually doing an hour-long show at 3 p.m. So we hope to see you guys then. And then we'll be live on Fox 10 News from 3 to 6 with those additional updates coming at you on air and online with any of our Facebook Lives. Please feel free to reach out. Feel free to comment here in case you do have any questions for us. My biggest advice to everyone as I'm leaving you right now is going to be, please charge your devices. Just make sure you have a way to get those alerts. Download the Fox 10 weather app in case we do have any of those warnings. Also, my next big advice is going to be, bring anything inside that could easily be blown away. Those yard decorations, double check your trampolines are down, trash cans, patio furniture, all of that, just because it is going to be getting breezy out here. Power outages are possible overnight. It really doesn't take much though. That's what I've learned here living on the Gulf Coast. With some of our summertime thunderstorms, you'll notice some of those power outages. So it doesn't take much, just that one little tree limb to fall on that power line. So just make sure, in case you have any of those battery powered banks, ways to recharge your devices, that's going to be a great tool to have too. We will continue to monitor and keep you guys updated here on Fox 10. Again, that next update coming out at 2 p.m. and we will keep you guys updated. But have a great day, and we will let you know everything you need to know.